Hey, this is Professor Snell. I'm making this video for both building construction and environmental systems. If you're watching it, I don't know which class you'll be in, and some of this will be review, it will be too much information for where you are right now. But it's not really for the classes. What I'm doing this for is to try to help you have a workflow to access climate information right at the beginning of any project. I think that should always be how you start a project. It's information you're going to need, and you should access it right away so that you can let that data influence how you develop form. So there's three programs that I'm going to talk about briefly today. One is Climate Consultant, the other is Climate Studio, a second is Climate Studio, and the third is SketchUp. They both have, I think I would use all three of them. Climate Consultant and Studio are free, and if you don't have them, you can talk to me about it. If you don't, well, actually, um, they're, let's see, do I have that open? Right. You should have seen, this is just in a presentation I was working on, but you should have access to this page with these links. I always provide that for my classes, and that has free downloads for both of those programs. SketchUp, I think, costs $50 a year for students. I think it's totally worth it. Now, I know that at NYIT we don't really use SketchUp that much, and I'm not suggesting that if a professor says you shouldn't use it, you should use it for your design. I'm saying that it's a good way to create a context model, which I think it should be fine in any situation. Okay, so I would use Climate Consultant to at the very beginning to access some climate data. So let's pick a site first. I had a friend. Let's see if I have that open somewhere. Yeah, I had a friend who contacted me. She lives in North Carolina, out in the woods, and she was looking at this funky little piece of property that has this RV on it. That she's looking to build a house there, but this is what is existing. Um, so we're in Tus, Tus, Tuckasegee, North Carolina. So the first thing I need to do is find some data, some climate data for that area. So I'm going to go into Climate Consultant, start a new project, download some weather data, and this will take me to the EPA. The Energy Plus uh, weather data site. Energy Plus is a U.S. government energy modeling program, um, and so we could type in the name of a place here, or we can also browse for data. Let me see if I can get this to work. Huh. Does not seem to want to give me that. Here we go. Um, Always glitches in the world. So anyway, we're on the page. I'm going to zoom in to the United States, head toward North Carolina, and it's near Asheville. Now, I do this because for more rural sites, or if you try to get closer than just some vague uh, name for a region, you can come to this map, and I just wanted to show you how it works. These numbers are just giving you how many. I believe they're identifying how many weather stations are near this dot, but it's these little position markers that you need to look for. So um, I know that I actually don't know what those numbers are for. I never figured it out. But anyway, so the Asheville Airport's close enough, so I'm going to click on it and scroll down and go to I'm going to go to folder. There's two things I can do. I can download the EPW file. And so if I just click on it, it's going to download it, and there it is down here. And that's good to do because I can use this then later in Climate Studio. But if I right click on it and say copy link address, Climate Consultant is set up just to allow you to paste that in directly, so it's a fast way. And now we have access to this climate data. This is a tabulated chart, gives us a lot of information about the both heat from the sun and the illumination, also dry bulb temperature, other things. that I won't talk about right now because this is just about creating a model. But you should, this is the place you should go when you're first starting out to get the basic information, degree days, sky clouds, like comparing the temperature range chart to the cloud chart is a really good way of understanding, starting to think about, well, can I actually access the sun in the winter when I would want to, or is it too cloudy, etc. So it's the broad stroke climate information to start with. You also have the cool psychrometric chart that allows you to sort of hone in on some passive strategies. And if you don't remember this or haven't talked about it yet, you will in a class. All right, so climate consultant, general information about climate, lots of useful charts are generated, and you can get a climate data file. All right, so then, but now let's go to SketchUp. Why would I use SketchUp? Well, SketchUp allows you to quickly, this is just a blank file, to quickly geolocate your model. So the first thing I would do if I'm looking at a project is get the climate data so I understand some basics about the climate in the area, and then I would open up SketchUp and geolocate a model, and I'll show you why here. So it's a really easy process. I go to, oh, and by the way, I can just go back to, not that, let me just close that. I got a lot of stuff open, as I'm sure you guys do too. So I can just copy that. Oh, I think I had it copied, but I can just copy that address and go back to SketchUp, go to File, Geolocate, Add Location, and I can just cut and paste that address in here, search, and now I'm at the site. I have to decide how much of the site I want to bring into my model, so I can select a region. And I know a little bit about it because I was looking at it. So, but well, I'll do it, and then we'll go back and look at the information we have. Let's just go ahead and let's see. I'm trying to get that road up there because you usually want to have roads. How about that? And I'm going to import it. And so, what do I have here? I have what looks like to be a snapshot of that site, but also by the way, I won't get into the details of SketchUp, but all of these tabs up here are, or most of them are just preloaded with SketchUp, and so I'm using the location settings here. If I click on that, now I've got a topo, right? And I picked the site because it's pretty steep, so we can really see the topo. A couple of and I can just toggle that on and off. I actually had already, look at this, I misspelled roads. I put some tags in a folder called site. Actually, since I just duplicated this, these are not in there, so let me move them in. Huh. There's always something. Okay, why would I do that? Because now I can very quickly turn off. I have context buildings. The location snapshot is the flat view. The terrain is obviously the terrain. So I'm going to turn off the snapshot. I don't have anything in context buildings or roads yet. Now, if I select it, I can right click and unlock it. Now I have an unlocked site, and I have an extension. SketchUp is a lot like Rhino, has a lot of free extensions, maybe even more. So I downloaded one called Interoth Terrain Volume. Interoth is a Swedish architect who makes these plugins for SketchUp for free. Some of them are for free. And I'm going to select the site, select Interoth Terrain Volume, and now I have this thing that I could 3D print if I had this at the right scale. I'm going to make it a little bit smaller with the pull tool. Okay, so now I have I'm going to turn off my axes. They just kind of bother me. Now I could have chosen, if I go back to geolocate, Actually, I may not be able to do it now because I don't have the image. I'm only going to have one set of imagery. Oh yeah, I could. So I could bring in a screen map, a street map. Not really helpful here, but in the city it's very helpful because you can just build buildings directly from it. In our case, I noticed that the buildings that are actually there aren't on in this topo shot. That's a common thing. I'm just going to go back and show you. So I think if we go to, if I have it open, and yeah, so here, this is the same site in Google Maps. We can see that there's some buildings here. There's a barn at the entrance. There's a little barn, a smaller barn, or like it's a little shed here, and there's an existing RV. So we might want to include those in our model. Um, oops, wrong thing. So how would we do that? Let's go ahead and do a little bit of design here, and then I will show you a more finished version of it. So I'm going to turn on my location. Um, so let's just say I'm going to quickly, actually here is that little barn, a little shed. It'd be really rough with it. It doesn't really, I can change these later. This is right now. It's kind of pointless. And let's say I think that maybe that little, and I could look up how big an RV is. I could have, there's ways I could measure that or just estimate the size of that little shed. Um, and now if I'm gonna quickly do some SketchUp stuff. I'm gonna group these so it makes it, that's a real secret in SketchUp is to group things. I'm gonna now put these on the context buildings layer. Actually, the way you do that is you go to Entity Info, and I will put them on context buildings. Then I'm going to come into each of them. Let's just make this thing 15 feet tall. It's not 15 feet. Let's say 10 feet tall. And this one, 15 feet tall. And I think it's probably not that tall, but it doesn't really matter. We're just playing around here. Um, and now we see that those. I didn't put them on roads. Doesn't seem like. Oh no, it's context buildings, right? Okay, so now let me bring my terrain back, and I can actually. I'm not going to do that yet. I'm going to now turn on my context buildings, turn on my snapshot, and I'm going to just quickly, really lamely draw a road in here that we can add to our. So I'm going to just use the spline tool here. I'm only drawing this much of it because this is the only part that's on her property, her potential property. This is already completely on somebody else's property, so it doesn't really matter. Uh, in our case, super rough here, so it's not really the best example, but just trying to. You have to close these forms in SketchUp. Didn't mean to draw that or that. Okay, now I have sort of a road shape. Let me turn off my. You can see why it's really important to have things on layers because now I can easily manipulate things. I'm going to group this and put that on roads. Okay, now if I turn my terrain back on, I'm going to go ahead now and, no, actually I'm not. I keep changing my mind. I am going to bring my context buildings back in. I'm going to pull them. This one's already above, so that's fine. I'm going to pull this one up a little bit. Huh, it's weird sticking to the. Okay. Bizarre. But anyway, got it up. Okay, now I'm going to actually create some little plinths, some little foundations for these. This is a good, quick way of actually integrating context buildings into your site, so they're not just kind of dug in there. The way I do that is also with these location tools. There is actually, it's not the location tools. It is this set over here. What are these called? I think they're called Sandbox. Yeah, this is a Sandbox tool set, and I'm going to stamp this building onto this site. And I'm just scrolling up and down, just going to be very approximate here with, in the country, you might go down like that. Doesn't really matter. I'm just trying to show you can do it. And then the same thing with this one. Okay. And now I can bring these down into position on their little foundations. Oh, I should include this house too. I mean, you get the idea. Let me just go ahead and put a road on here real quick. If I turn my roads back on, and I'm going to pull it up also because I want it above. And if I now drape that, it's a different uh, functionality. I'm going to drape this onto this. I don't know if you can see. You see how that's now on this site, that shape? Turn off roads. So now I can, you don't have to do this, but I can go into my site grouping and change the color. So let's just pick something kind of gray. So I'm going deeper. And I can come in and choose the road and make it a different color. Let's make it white. I might have just messed up and done both sides. Yeah, I did because it's taking too long. Okay, the road's white. Let's make this, actually make it a little bit darker gray, I think. Okay, so you see we have the road draped on here and the buildings on the site. One more thing I can do, and of course, tons of other things we could do with this, but now I'm going to add contour lines. To do that, oops, just need to draw a box that's larger than my building or than my site. I'm going to turn off my site actually, and I'm going to group that. Then I'm going to turn the site back on. And I'm just going to, actually I need to move this down a little bit because I want to have it start at the bottom or below the bottom. And I'm just going to move it. You can move and copy very easily in SketchUp. So I'm going to go every 10 feet, I think would probably be good. So move. Okay, go up 10 feet times, I don't know, 30. I'm going to do 40, 50, doesn't matter. So I've got all these I'm selecting them all these planes. Now if I right click on that and I say intersect faces with model, and then I delete these, I now have contour lines on the model. And that, I might have wanted to go 5 feet or something different, but and so the last thing I might want to do for this particular site would be to make some trees. So if I go back to Get rid of location terrain. And, oh, let's do this too. I'm going to turn off everything. Let's go ahead and put these contour lines on a, I'm going to make a tag for that. Put it in sight, contour. And then I'll put these on contour. I always check by turning it off. Okay, so now I'm going to bring back on the snapshot. I'm just going to, the debate in architecture on how to draw trees, whatevs. I'm just going to show you how, one way I do it. I just draw some circles. Now I know something about these trees, what kind they are. I mean, so I'm just kind of showing you. I'm not, you should be intelligent about this. And you'll see when I go to the next model that I can turn something like that into a set of trees, and I could scale them. So like if I did that, and I would probably clean this up, but let me just go ahead and group it. And if I then, move them, oops, control move. Let's say 10 feet, and then kind of skew it out a little bit. And then I could take this one again and make a copy of it 20 feet down. Oops, did not take. Oops. And maybe I want to scale that, make it a little bit smaller. So I come over here and just, oops, select the scale tool, scale that down a little bit. Whatever, I can make a set of trees, and then maybe I'd skew that out also. Oh, I guess I didn't. I must have Control Z'd that when I pulled it out. All right, so then playing around with that, continuing. Turn off the location snapshot and the roads. Oh, and I didn't. Let me turn off all this. I'd have to put those on a layer, of course. So I'm going to call these trees. Okay. I think my trees are inside this, which makes sense. So let me turn everything off, turn the trees on, move them up some. Right, so now I can move those trees wherever I want. All right, so if now let's look at a more developed version of this. And again, this goes pretty quick. I'd say very quick. I'm teaching, so it's going slower. Of course, it will go slower for you at first. But here's a version of that same site that I made previously with all the features I was showing you. So what is the real advantage of this? Well, first of all, you'll see when I bring this into Rhino, which I'm going to show you right now. This is in rendered mode, so it's kind of okay, but it's much less graphically clear in Rhino, in my opinion. Now, of course, if we rendered it, that's fine, but I'm talking about for the sun studies. So I actually think for graphic purposes, sun studies in SketchUp are much better. So, and I'll show you, they're really easy to do. If you, so you can save scenes. So I just went up to, I created a scene here, and you do that by, there's a scene tab. You can, and it saves, the camera angle, whatever you have on or off, whatever layers are on or off are saved. So it's a way that you can really easily animate. So actually, let me just do another one right now. I'm gonna start with this will be my starting scene. I'm gonna add it. going to call this axon, no perspective. I'm going to move it so where it's first, which I have to do by doing this. And now I can actually animate through these scenes really easily. But what have I done here? So I turned the sun on. So in SketchUp, there's a sun. I can turn it on and off. It's also up here. This is the little dialogue up there. But this one's more accurate, or I can set it more easily. And I set it for the winter solstice at 9 a.m. And then the next scene I set for winter solstice at 12 a.m. So just changing one little button. Then winter solstice at 3, equinox, so 3 months later at 9, 12, and 3. And then summer solstice, 9, 12, and 3. So this is a very powerful tool that we very quickly can generate. And for example, let's look at summer at 12 and winter at noon. Really big difference, right? So if you're concerned about being in the sun in the winter in this building right here, this may not be the best site for you. But if you're thinking mainly about growing season, let's see. Looks like back here, because that was, that beginning of the growing season at the equinox or so. And then in the summer, you get full sun. So that's not so bad for growing. Whatever your goal is, you can quickly, so I'm saying, you get good at this, you can do what I just did in 20 minutes, and then you're doing a pretty robust uh, schematic study very early on. But now, if we want numbers, oh, by the way, so you can see how I did the trees here. It's pretty simple, basically exactly the same thing I did. I placed them somewhat accurately, but this isn't exactly how trees work. Of course, they have holes in them. They may be deciduous, and they might not have leaves in the winter. Actually, these are mostly pine trees, so they would in this case. But this is a very inaccurate way of doing it, so it's very schematic. Um, but if I so now if I had this model in Rhino, then I have access to all of the simulation tools in Climate Studio very quickly. So I can uh, learn about the sun path in a different graphic setup. Again, if I want to render it. But the problem with the rendering is you don't see the shadows, but I can at least see the movement of the sun on the site. I can then do radiation studies. So let me turn off. Oh, but what I didn't say, I'm sorry, I got ahead of myself. I'm going to actually open up a new Rhino file. So as that's going, let me remind us what we did then. So we had climate consultant that we accessed to get quick information about the climate that we'll use, that we could use even before we start designing it all to understand, well, how cold is it? How many heating degree days? I might start thinking about my building envelope. If I have a tight site and I don't have a lot of space, I might think, well, I don't know if, I need a lot of insulation. Do I have enough room? What kind of mechanical system might I want to use in this climate? Because that's going to affect, the size I have for different things. Again, not affecting your aesthetics or your spatial design, but giving you feedback so that you don't get into trouble by designing something that then has to go be fixed later because you don't have room for things you need. So that was Climate Studio. Then we go to SketchUp and get, let me just open that up for visual, and get a model that we can do a quick sun study, that we can get graphics out of, that we can geolocate accurately and get a really accurate topo. And this is really important because now this is an accurate topo that I can bring into Rhino rather than making some abstract topo that's kind of accurate. I can bring in the actual topo. So let me show you how we do that. Wait, come on. Is this? Oh yeah, the irritating thing where it always minimizes. If I go to File, Import, and bring in, let me see if I can find that. Yeah. there's some settings here you should play around with, but I'm just going to open it up. And here is my topo, and everything that I built in, for some reason, not all the trees, I don't know, oh, this is a different version. But it doesn't matter. What my point is that everything's here. I've got a bunch of empty layers that come with so I could delete those right off the bat, because these just come with a blank file. And then it's weird, like everything's on this layer, but my other layers are here, so I can bring stuff into it pretty quickly. So I would come in and quickly rearrange this stuff, put it in the right layer, probably create a folder that was called site. So I can very quickly get my accurate topo into Rhino. And now I'm in Rhino, now I'm in the NYIT world, and I can access Climate Studio. So let's talk about Climate Studio for a minute. I realize I jumped into that because I've been teaching it, and I was assuming everybody knows about it, but you don't. Climate Studio is a great sort of low-level, well, it actually can be very accurate, but I'm saying it's really good for schematic design. Let me go turn off this. Um, so the way it works is that you have a series of simulations you can do, site analysis, point in time illuminance, daylight availability, angle glare, etc. And they're all controlled from the CS Workflows tab, and then the results show up in your results tab. And you set different parameters for different, so like right now, I can turn on the sun path, I can do a wind analysis or look at the wind if I'm in the site analysis tab. But if I come down here to radiation map, then I've got other inputs other variables that I need to input, like materials for the different layers that I want to model or to have on during my simulation. I need to identify surfaces. So I won't talk about all that right now. I will though say that, so we have New York LaGuardia. I could come and change that to, let's see if I have that on my downloads folder. Yep. I can open up that same exact climate file very quickly. Here I am now in Climate Studio with that climate file ready to go and ready to do some real simulations. And I did that for this model. And so let's just let me go back and turn these things off. Sorry. I know I'm just clicking through quickly because I'm just trying to exemplify a couple things and make examples of a couple things. Okay, so this is a radiation map showing how much sun is hitting the different surfaces. This one was done. Let's change this a little bit. So what can I learn from this, for example? Quickly, again, like this is just that SketchUp model. I can do this almost instantly coming in here. Well, in this context, with the trees that I've modeled, I can actually come and pick this. I'm blasting through this just to show you a cool thing or some cool stuff really quickly. I'm not expecting you to understand it or be able to do it, but this is an introduction, right? So just for the warm hours, I'm sorry, I want the cold hours. So this is when I would want heating. So this is when I would want to have sun coming in. If I am, and so what these little dots are sensors, and this is the amount of kilobTUs per square foot per year for the heating season. Because I've only got the cold hours on right now, and there's other ways I can look at it here, but I can just see that. So I'm at 50 kilobTUs per square foot per year with the site as is with trees. Let's say I got rid of the trees. Now I'm at 133. Wow, that's a huge difference from the trees, right? And if my goal is to get light into or sun into this into this onto this south facade, which is when you'd be heating when the sun's going to be low in the winter and accessing the building to heat it if I need heat, then I would need to get rid of those trees according to this model. Let's say I didn't want that and there weren't trees and I wanted this to be shaded. Well, what happens if I put an overhang on? just remembered I changed this when I was playing around with it. So let's just go look at this facade. This is where I have the overhang. So with the trees, we're at 67 here. Without the trees, we're at 134 kilobtu's per square foot per year during the heating season. And with an overhang, we are at 60. So pretty much similar. Trees 67. This particular overhang 60. So if we didn't have the trees and we wanted to have the same effect as the trees in terms of the sun, we could do it with an overhang. Um, so these three programs working together are pretty powerful. And the point is they are fast so that you can access this information quickly for any project. And you should, because uh, the sun and the wind and the water cannot be moved. Well, water can be moved. Well, let's put it this way. The sun you can't move, you can block it. The wind you can not move, but you can block it. The water you can capture, but it's coming to the site, right? So you need to know where those resources are and what, so that you can utilize them rather than have them mess up your design. All right, that's it for what I've got. And as always, whether or not you're in my classes or not, if you're interested in this stuff and you have questions, let me know and I'll try to help you. Great.